My name is Stephen Black. I'm the director of the Center for Ethics and Social Responsibility at the University of Alabama. Well, they're sort of a multi-purpose mission at the Center for Ethics, but the main is, I would say the main mission is providing a platform and a path for students to be a lot more thoughtful about how they identify their own sense of obligation to other human beings, and to think through what it means to be a socially responsible college graduate. The service learning movement is about 15 years old,
Okay.
which is an absolute good. Thousands and thousands of college students around Alabama, hundreds of thousands of students around the country doing intensive, thoughtful volunteer work in substandard public schools around the country. After-school tutoring, working in classes, caliber of teaching students has been rising over the last 10 years as more young people are thinking of it as an aspirational and professional endeavor.
Absolutely.
One challenge to this movement is I think universities need to be more thoughtful and careful about only focusing on failing schools and delivering college students to them as if they're the key ingredient in improving those schools. You know, we have a lot of students that go through 4 years and they've spent hundreds of hours with low-income children, and all they've ever seen is models of failure. And I think it's incredibly important for young people, especially becoming college graduates and professionals, through their life to know that there are incredibly successful charter schools, there are successful schools that have received grants from the Gates Foundation, but also there are just normal, everyday community public schools in every state in America that are blowing the roof off the building and testing at par with suburban programs, and it has nothing to do with white college students making the difference. It has to do with usually a visionary principal, a culture of high expectations, hard-working, talented teachers, and that's something I think we miss in this era of service learning. The possibility of being successful as a country in the future will depend on our education system. And as you know, most of that comes down to the quality and the relationship of the teacher to the student. Just in the last 10 years, the prestige assigned to education as a career option in people between the ages of 15 and 25 has been skyrocketing. And that is what is going to save public education, is to have talented, gifted young people considering it on par with other professional careers, because in fact, it is the most transformative, transcendent, important career choice that anyone could make in our country. I had terrible grades all the way through high school. I didn't have a 3.0. I never read a book. By the time I was in 10th grade, I sort of prided myself on the fact that I still had not read a book, and I would just read Cliff Notes and just sort of fake it from hearing what people were saying. And I got passionately into tennis by the time I was 13, and I convinced my parents to let me go to a tennis academy for the second half of high school. But I do think that was the beginning of a transformation for me, not from a teacher per se in academics, but from our head coach, whose name was Owen Davidson, who played professional tennis in the 60s and 70s and was a world champion. And being part of that culture of just demanding every ounce of energy and commitment from yourself on a daily basis to achieve excellence. That habit then resulted in, I had torn tissue in my heels, I had bone spurs, and I started playing tennis at college at Boston University, which I only got into because of tennis.
Right.
And I stopped playing that fall because my heels weren't better, and I had surgery on them, but it didn't really work. But I was already sort of in the habit of that disciplined work, and I started reading. And I fell in love with reading, and I just sort of switched over my intensity and focus to academics. Then I transferred to the University of Pennsylvania, which I loved being there, and I became a history major, and then I went to law school. But it really was seeing him and his, I mean, there was 0% acceptance of anything other than 100% effort. And that was the norm of the culture of the tennis school. And I think that's translated into a sort of a worldview in the students that we interact with, that this is a space for support and pursuing excellence, in our case, in civic engagement and being thoughtful about creating in yourself the ability to make a difference in the greater community. Smart, but more than anything, exuding from every pore of their body an expectation of excellence, a refusal to accept average, a refusal to blame parents or blame the community or blame culture. And because you know that there are teachers that are affecting children in a positive way and keeping them at a very high level, it should be on you. And not everyone is cut out for this.
Yeah.
But it's possible. And I think there's a lot of wisdom to be gained from those principals and those teachers, and they deserve the highest level of prestige afforded in a culture, because really, to me, the nobility of their work.